Court is in session, day 5.
All right, good morning, everyone. We're on the record on case CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell, continuing evidence with the state's case in chief. The state just concluded with a witness yesterday afternoon, and I believe intends to call another witness this morning. I'll note the prosecution's all here represented, as well as the defendant and defense counsel. Is the state ready to proceed today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor, and I got the microphone on this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor. If parties are ready, then I'll go ahead and have the bailiffs please have the jurors brought in.
Good morning, Tommy. Tommy P. Is that a picture of Dolly Parton? Are you Dolly Parton? Please remember to hit the thumbs up. So this is day 5 of the trial. The state is still calling witnesses. The testimony so far yesterday was mostly about incidents and testimony and exhibits shown around Charles Vallow, the deaths of Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell. We are waiting for the jury. The jury is made up of 10 women and 10 men. My understanding is that they are of all ages.
All rise.
Please remember to hit the thumbs up when you come in. I hope this stream finds you well. It'll be interesting to see what the state brings today.
Your Honor, the jury is present and accounted for.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for returning today. The court notes all the jurors are here, present and accounted for, and properly seated. The court's also received and reviewed a juror affirmation from each one of the 18 jurors, indicating they have followed the court's admonishment to not investigate or look into the case over the break. So thank you for following that instruction again. I'll submit those admonishments to the court clerk. I will also indicate one other thing to the jury. As just after the jury was impaneled, I believe a question may have arisen about how it works having alternates, because there are 12 jurors who will ultimately determine the case. And of course, we have extra jurors just given the length of this trial. I'll note that the way alternates are, the process is clearly defined under Idaho Criminal Rule 24. And I'll just read a portion of that to make it clear to you. That says, at the conclusion of closing arguments, jurors exceeding the number required of a regular panel must be removed by lot. So in other words, there's a random drawing that would occur. So all of you must consider yourselves to be jurors in this evidence portion of the case. And if additional jurors remain once the case is submitted for deliberations, that would just be determined by a random draw, essentially, is what lot means. So I wanted to clarify that for the jurors so that someone didn't believe possibly they knew who the alternates would be or would not be. No one will know that until it's time to begin deliberations. So with that in mind, then the court would indicate the state is still in its opening argument in its case in chief with presenting evidence. And I understand the state was going to be calling Detective Considas as its next witness. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wood, are you going to be examining the witness?
I will be.
All right, Mr. Wood, you can call your witness.
And the state calls Chuck Considas.
And today, Chad apparently has chosen a blue. I don't think I've ever seen him wearing a blue button up. He's always got that white on. He's switching things up. I wonder if Mr. Pryor brought that for him, thinking I'd like him to
You
wear.
solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Right, Detective Considas, you've been sworn now. Before you begin testifying, I just want to inquire, this trial is being live streamed on the court's channel, and I wanted to inquire as to whether or not you have viewed any of the testimony or the trial proceedings before your testimony today.
Have not.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Wood, you can inquire on direct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before I do, just briefly, I met with the court and counsel yesterday about some logistics for Detective Considas's testimony. And I spoke about having a copy of his exhibits with him. That copy right now is by my desk. I didn't want to put it up there until court started. And so I'd ask if the court and counsel are still all right with those logistics, that he be handed that box of exhibits.
All right, Mr. Pryor will note we did discuss that in a sidebar. There's a large volume of pages in these exhibits, and does the defense have any objection to those being available to the witness as we go through admissions of those exhibits?
Good morning, Sparkles. Thanks for hitting those thumbs up. So they just said there's a large number of
All right,
pages in this.
there is no objection then. So Mr. Wood, if you'd like to go ahead and provide the witness with those exhibits, as each though is offered, just make sure to make a clear record of what's being proffered, and we'll go through whatever becomes admitted.
This may be the messages between Chad and Lori, maybe. If so, you might have to put on your prophylactic for all the BS.
Detective, can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Chuck Considas. The last name spelling is Kunsaitis.
What is your occupation?
I'm employed as a police officer at the city of Rexburg.
And what is your title?
I'm a detective sergeant in the investigations division
How long have you been a detective?
since 2011.
And what did you do prior to that?
I was in the patrol division and as an acting patrol supervisor at one point before moving to the investigations.
Are you post certified?
I am graduated post class 131.
And what is post?
It's the police academy.
And in your role as an officer, have you continued receiving training over the last or during your career?
Yes, I have. I've been had education and training in drug and narcotics investigations, missing persons, death investigations, financial crimes.
Detective, how did you become involved in the case regarding Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and Chad Daybell?
In November 27th of 2019, I was aware that then Detective Hermosillo, who's now a lieutenant, he was conducting search warrants at 3 different locations at the Rock Creek Townhomes. At 565 Pioneer Road, I believe the apartment numbers were 174, 175, and 107.
Have fun, Sparkles.
And did you aid in that search?
I was not a part of the original service of the warrants. I did show up on scene later in the afternoon and checked in with Detective Hermosillo and asked if I could be of any assistance.
On that day, did you obtain a search warrant for a storage unit?
I did. Detective Hermosillo had me walk through apartment 175 just to see if there's any evidentiary items of value that may have been missed. I located in the master bedroom of 175, which was the apartment that Lori Vallow was currently living in. There was a printer in the bedroom, and on the printer there was an invoice for a storage unit from the Self Storage Plus in Rexburg.
And so you obtained a
Oh,
warrant
yes,
for
I
that
obtained a
storage
warrant
unit.
for storage unit number C52.
And did you execute that warrant?
I did.
What did you find?
There was, and there was a medium-sized unit, and there was only a bin, a tote bin with some items of like a baseball glove, some ice skates, some photo albums, and a couple of bicycles and a scooter. There wasn't a lot of content inside the storage unit.
All right. Detective, at any time in your investigation, did you have occasion to write a warrant for a P.O. box in Sugar City, Idaho?
I did. In late December of 2019, I got information from Gilbert Police Department in Arizona that Lori Vallow had a P.O. box in Sugar City, Idaho, just outside of Rexburg.
And so you wrote a warrant for that.
I did.
Did you execute it?
I did.
What did you find in executing that warrant?
There was a large bundle of unopened mail, approximately 100 pieces or so. They were addressed to both Lori Vallow and her then husband, Charles Vallow, who was deceased, and her brother, Alex Cox.
All right. And going through that, did you find anything of interest to your investigation?
Yes, there were several pieces of mail that were from financial institutions. There were cell phone bills. There were letters from the IRS and Social Security Administration.
And based on what you found, did you obtain a warrant for any other mail?
Yes, around that same time, the owner of apartment 107 of the Rock Creek Townhomes, I believe his name is Stephen Cruz. He had contacted the police department and said there was some abandoned.
Your Honor, I think it goes to the question of why he did what he did.
In terms of what he said specifically, I'll sustain the objection as hearsay.
Detective, without saying what anybody else told you, did you write another warrant for mail?
Yes, there was some abandoned mail that was turned into the police department from apartment 107.
Hi, Tiggy girl.
Based on what you found in those warrants for the mail, did you serve any other warrants or subpoenas?
Yes, we served several warrants and subpoenas to different financial institutions and the cellular device companies.
What was, you said financial records, correct?
Yes.
What was the purpose of obtaining financial records in your investigation?
Well, we're a missing person case, and so there's a lot of information you can glean from going through financial records. It's not just how much money is in the account. You can look through the account to see if it's a regularly used account, if it's a business account, a savings account. You also get a kind of a peek into the life on how people spend their money. If they're eating out a lot or if they are just paying bills, you can kind of get an understanding of how people go about their daily lives.
Detective, regarding Lori Vallow Daybell and Tylee Ryan, did you create a list of financial institutions upon which you served a warrant for aid in your testimony at this trial?
I did.
And did you do that in anticipation of testifying before this jury?
Yes.
Did you prepare that list to aid the jury in knowing which financial institutions you're speaking about and to help them keep track of them?
Yes,
Do you believe that demonstrative list would so aid the jury?
I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed a look at State's Exhibit 62.
All right, is that one of the ones that's in the?
Yes.
Okay, Detective, if you want to locate Exhibit 62.
The scary thing is that there are still people who believes
Detective, do you recognize that?
Yes, it's a financial account attribution list that I created.
Is this the same demonstrative list that we were just speaking about?
Yes,
And is it a true and accurate representation of what you created?
yes,
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, I'd ask that Exhibit 62 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
And may I publish?
Yes, Exhibit 62 is admitted.
Detective, is there a pointer
yes.
there? Can you walk the jury through the accounts that you are going to be talking about?
Okay, so on this page, we're going to be, or just specifically for Lori Vallow, Daybell, and Tylee Ryan. Again, having served several subpoenas and warrants, we're looking through everything. We were able to narrow it down to these particular accounts that are pertinent to the investigation.
And I didn't realize that wasn't all showing. And so you had accounts for Tylee Ryan as well.
Yes.
All right.
Would you like me to go over them briefly?
Yes,
Or-
please.
Okay. So the top account there, it's a JP Chase Bank. It's a joint account with Charles Vallow, and the number on the end right over here is just the account number, just the last four. There was another account through JP Chase that was a joint account that Lori had with her daughter, Tylee. There was an additional JP Morgan Chase account that she shared with Charles Vallow. This was another kind of a business account. And then we learned that there was a personal account through the BBVA Compass account that Lori had created for herself. And then at a later time, she created a joint account with Tylee through the BBVA. And then the next are credit cards. There's a Barclays Hawaiian credit card joint account that Lori Vallow shared with Charles. And they were each issued a card, and you see Lori had a card 6611 and Charles had a card was 0991. There's a Barclays bank account, a credit card that we found that Alex, who's Lori's brother, had opened up an account and actually had Lori on as a card holder. And you see that Alex had two cards here, and then Lori had a card in the last four numbers in that card was 9259. We have an additional First Hawaiian Bank account that Lori had. And the last two we see here are Chase Southwest Air. The the PFS marketing credit card. The PFS is a Premier Financial Service. That was the business account that Charles Vallow had. He was an owner of this financial service. And then we had the National Life Insurance of the Southwest. Lori had a policy that she took out for personal reasons for $2 million. And just below that, the Tyler Ryan attributions, they're the same ones that were up on top under Lori's name, but we just put them under her name. So there's the JP Chase Morgan account, the 3918. This is an account she had while she was living in Arizona before they moved to Idaho.
Welcome.
And
from
then Lori
Scotland.
opened up an account with Tylee when they got to just before they moved to Idaho. And Tylee was she had a Jeep Wrangler that Charles Vallow had purchased, and Tylee was making payments on. So we created that there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness look at State's Exhibit 63. And 63 has several subparts.
Okay, make sure to identify those subparts then, and Detective Considas, you can locate that exhibit, please.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, I'd note for the record that 63 itself is a business record affidavit. And so this document comes in by way of stipulation.
All right, exhibit 63 then. Give me a moment, we'll take a look at that also. All right, so 63 is just the affidavit, not the attached records, which are subparts that are marked with letters in addition to 63. Is there any objection to the admission of 63, the affidavit? Very well. Exhibit 63 is admitted.
Thank you. Detective, can you look at, and may I, Your Honor, my understanding is that once that's admitted, all parts of this exhibit are admitted, and may I publish those?
Okay, and okay, so that would include then
63A through 63I.
okay, I've got through H. Maybe there's.
We'll make sure we get a copy of that.
Okay.
And then
well,
does council have a copy of it?
I
Okay,
have a courtesy copy up through 63H, but you're saying there's also an I?
yes.
Okay, so exhibits 63A through I are also admitted then.
Thank you. Detective, will you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63A? What is that?
This is a electronic signature card for the account of the JP Chase Morgan, the 0769 account.
What is the significance of that account to your investigation?
So we learned that this account was an everyday account that both Charles and Lori utilized while living in Arizona. And we know that with this account is specifically interacts with Tylee's joint account when they're moving monies, transferring monies from account to account.
All right. Can you look at State's Exhibit 63B? Do you know what that document is?
This is a sample monthly statement, sample of monthly statements from the 0769 account dating from June 10th through September, I believe, of 2019.
And this is the account ending in 0769, correct?
Correct.
And did you review all the documents that came in with that?
I did.
Mr. Wood, on that projector, there is actually a light that I think will remove the shadow. I can have staff attorney assist you with that if you'd like.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sometimes the sound
Are there
quality-
regular deposits into that account?
I'll say it later.
There's no regular deposits into this account. They're sporadic at times. They're coming in, monies are being transferred into this account from the 0377 account. But as far as having like a regular paycheck, having a direct deposit or something to that effect, there's nothing on like that on these accounts.
And just to clarify, this was at the jointly held account by Lori Vallow and Charles Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Detective, can you pull out what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63C? What is that document?
This is the signature card on the application for the account, joint account for Lori Vallow and Tylee Ryan, the account that ends in 3918.
And this is a Chase
Morgan.
Morgan
Correct.
account. And can you pull out what's been marked as 63D?
Good morning, hippie chick.
What is that?
This is sampling of monthly statements from Tylee's account from January of 2019 through, I believe, November of 2019 or October 2019.
Hey,
Okay.
Delene.
And was there anything significant about this document to you in your investigation?
Yes, it shows Tylee is very active on this account. She is spending money with her. She is receiving death benefit stipends in this account from her father, Joe Ryan, who passed away April 3rd of 2018. So Tylee was receiving death benefits, and the death benefits were regularly deposited into this account. And Tylee was very active in this account.
When you say active,
Well, she was out spending money almost on a daily basis. She was going to convenience stores, gas stations, shopping centers, fast food.
and you stated this is the account she was receiving her Social Security payments in.
Correct.
And were those monthly?
They were. They appeared towards the end of the month. Since she first started receiving her benefits June 14th of 2018, and they were regularly occurring into this account.
And do you know how much she received?
In 2019, she was receiving $1,859 a month.
Detective, as you go through these records, are you able to tell the difference between what I'm going to call a brick and mortar payment or store, like a physical location, and online payments?
Yes. Kylie, the overwhelming majority of her spending habits occur in brick and mortar type establishments. And there are some online payments, but she's out spending money in physical places.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 63E?
They're probably starting to get to the fact that her activity just completely ends at on a certain day.
What is that
I'm
document?
not a numbers gal either.
This is the partial monthly statement showing from August 23 of 2019 through September 3rd of 2019 for Tylee's 3918 Chase Morgan account.
And what is the significance of that document to your investigation?
Well, it still shows through August, she is out actively spending money. And it also shows towards the end of the month. We look up on the screen here. So she's really active coming through here. And then when you get towards the 1st of September, and these, I just want to make a clarification here on this outside row, that's the posting date. Inside on the statement, you'll see a date of 9/1. So it shows Tylee moving from Arizona, heading north. And this is the same time frame when they were moving to Idaho. And when you get down to the bottom of the page here, it shows that her last in-person use of a card was done in St. George, Utah on the 1st. There were 2 purchases at a McDonald's that day.
And is St. George between
Oh, sorry.
Rexburg and Maricopa County?
Yes, I'm sorry for those that take it for granted. I'm sorry. St. George is one of the first cities you come to in Utah when you come up north out of Arizona as you're heading towards Idaho.
Hey, Solo, really? Was that happening?
Was there any record of any money being deposited into that account after that date shown, the last date shown on that record?
No. So we had learned that in the middle of August, I believe it was August 16th, Lori, Tylee's mom, had contacted Social Security and had stopped having the monthly stipends deposited into Tylee's account. And she then switched those monies to be deposited in to her own personal account, Lori's personal account from the BBVA. So there were no more funds coming into this account at all.
That's dirty.
Detective, can you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63F?
So usually when a platform starts glitching, that means they're making major updates to the
What is that
platform.
document?
This is the checking summary for the date of September 20th, 2019 for Tylee's JP Chase account. And it's showing a $10.04 balance. And then it shows right underneath on the beginning balance, it has an electronic withdrawal for the same $10.04, bringing the ending balance to 0.
Does it show where that money was transferred to?
That money was transferred into Lori's 0769 account from the JP Chase.
Was there anything significant about that transaction to you in your investigation?
Yes, Tylee had no more control over her monies in this account. And with the timeline that we had learned in this investigation of Tylee's last known sighting was between September 8th and September 9th. Lori had closed out this account to, there's no more use for it.
Detective, can you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63G? And what is that document?
This would be it's an online administration tool for people who bank with JP Chase Morgan. They're issued a personal identification number, and they're allowed to go online and they can conduct their transactions. And this is the page that indicates for Lori Vallow. It sets up with her personal PIN number on Tylee's account. It shows that she can access Tylee's account.
And so did she and Tylee have separate identifying numbers?
They did.
Are they on that page?
They are. So if you look down to the middle of the page, well, we know it's Lori because she says Lori for style at iCloud.com right here. And it has Lori's name up here. But right here under personal ID and profile ID, it has a number. And the last four numbers on that are the 5132. So that's the number that's associated with Lori.
And is there a profile number for Tylee Ryan?
There is.
Can you point that out?
So if you were to go two more pages into this document, you'll see Tylee's name is highlighted up on top, and it has Tylee's email right there, TylieRyan24 at Gmail. And if you go down to the profile ID just underneath that, it has a number right here. And the last four on those are 0212.
And Detective, what's the significance of those identifying numbers? Does it aid you in your investigation to know those?
Sure, it's specific to the user. So we have a general idea that it's the person who's logging in is using it, and it leaves a digital footprint so you can see where they're going and what they're doing within the banking of their account.
So if Lori Vallow were to go online and make a change to that account, it would show that it was her by her identifying number. Is that accurate?
Yes,
And is the same accurate if Tylee Ryan were to go online and make a change? It would show her identifying number.
yes.
Thank you.
If you were to go to the next page, this page here is dated September 20th. And as we previously spoke to the account closing on the 20th of September, if you could bring your, let's see. Okay, we're good. Right. No, bring it down just a little bit, please. There you go. Thank you. You'll see the profile ID number up here, the 5132, that's associated with Lori Vallow. And if you look to the bottom of the document, you'll see here on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the high school checking account belonging to Tylee, the 3918, and you see monies being transferred to, and here's the $10.04 that just shows that Lori went in and accessed Tylee's account and then moved monies over into her 0769 account, making it a zero balance.
And so just to clarify, Detective, you're able to verify that it was Lori that made that transaction by that identifying number.
Correct.
All right. And what was that date again?
September 20th, 19.
Detective, can you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63H?
This is a checking summary showing a zero balance on Tylee Ryan's 3918 JP Chase Bank.
And what's the date on that? Or I should say, is there a date on that?
I'm not seeing a date on it, but it would be for anything after September 20th.
All right. And can you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 63I?
63I is a signature card application page for JP Chase Morgan account for Charles Vallow and Lori Vallow for the 0377 account.
And did you obtain that through a warrant or subpoena?
I did.
Did you provide that to any other law enforcement agency to review?
I did. I have some knowledge of this account, but the primary reviewer of this account was Michael Douglas, FBI forensic accountant.
All right.
It's the lighting from the courtroom, but doesn't it seem kind of eerie that Chad is the only person on camera? Chad and Pryor are the only ones kind of with a dark shadow cast over them.
Detective, can you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 64A? Oh, bailiff, I apologize. This was the first page to 63. And Your Honor, I would just note for the record that State's Exhibit 64 is a business records affidavit, and that this document has subparts 64A through C. And to the state's understanding, this document comes in by way of stipulation.
All right, so 64 is admitted and 64 A, B, and C are also all admitted.
All right.
And they may be published, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Detective, what are the documents from State's, excuse me, Exhibit 64?
These are summary of accounts for the BBVA Compass account ending in 3229 for Lori Vallow. It's a checking account that was opened in October of 2018.
Is Lori Vallow the sole user on this account?
She is.
And I believe you just said it was opened in October of 2018?
Correct. I believe the 20th.
And did you obtain this through a search warrant or through a subpoena?
I did.
And what was the significance of this account to your investigation?
Well, we learned through this account that this would be one of Lori's main accounts where she would be receiving future Social Security monies. We know that Tally's monthly stipend was being deposited into this account and would later receive stipends for death benefits for Charles Vallow as well, for both her and JJ.
And can you look at 64B? And what is that?
This is a sample portion of monthly statements for Lori's 3229 BBVA account from August of 2019 through, I believe, January of 2020.
Detective, I want to call your attention to a deposit made on August 28th. Can you see that?
I can.
What was that deposit? And if you can use a pointer to point it out to the jury.
So just below mid-page on the screen here, we see a credit for Social Security Treasury deposit for $1,859. This account this deposit is associated to Tylee Ryan. And we know from when multiple deposits are made into a banking account from Social Security. So if there's more than one person receiving monies, they're given special identifiers so you can see which deposits belong to which person. So if we look here at Tylee's, you see the reference and it has the X's, and then we see the 4121C1. So the 4121 is the last four numbers of Joe Ryan's Social Security number. His Social Security number is 146604121. And then the C1 is just it's a designated identifier for child. So it'd be Tylee being a child, a minor under 18, receiving death benefits from her biological father.
And that was the Joe Ryan.
Joe Ryan, correct.
Who you testified was deceased.
He was deceased. He died on April 3rd in 2018.
And so that's how you're able to identify that payment is assigned to Tylee Ryan, even though it's going into Lori Ballow's account at this point.
Correct.
And from your investigation, is this the first deposit of Social Security benefits for Tylee Ryan into this account?
Yes, this is the first deposit.
And where was Tylee Ryan receiving her Social Security benefits before that?
As stated, she was previously receiving them in her JP Chase account, which her mother has since closed out.
And again, what was the date of that deposit?
This was on August 28th of 2019.
And was there anything significant about that to you, about that date?
We learned that our investigation, we believe that Tylee was killed 10 days later.
I'm going to call your attention to a deposit made. It's on the third page of that document. Deposit made on September 18th.
That's true, Johnny. We do disagree,
Are you able to locate that?
I am.
but we can do it.
Can you,
attacking.
with your pointer, identify the deposits made on September 18th?
Yes, so there's two deposits made on that day. One in the amount of $3,902 and the second for $4,157. You see them here towards the bottom of the page right here. They were deposits from the Social Security Administration, Treasury Department. As you see the X's here, you have a different last four number, the 9801, and then you have a C1. And then on the next line down, you have the 9801E. So we can differentiate what deposit belongs to by looking at this top one here. We have the 9801. So Charles Vallow's Social Security number was 436029801. And we see the C1, so that would be for JJ. And that's the monies that were received. So we have on the next one down, we know it's for Lori because we have the 9801, but the letter E is just an identifier saying that she is the child in care or the guardian.
All right. And are those amounts, are those the regular monthly payments?
These are not. These are the initial installments that she received back pay for both when she generated her paperwork back in August.
And Detective, was there anything significant about that deposit date to you?
Yes.
What is that?
JJ was killed a few days later. Honored around the 22nd or 23rd.
Oh, wow. The detective is emotional.
Detective,
Gosh.
you mentioned earlier that this account, this BBVA account, ending in 3229, received from August on all of the Social Security payments.
Yes.
And did you review this document for those payments?
I did.
Detective, did you prepare a demonstrative chart that shows all of Tylee Ryan's social security deposits?
I did.
Does that include both the JP Morgan account and BBVA account payments?
Yes.
Did you do that to aid this jury in understanding where and when those payments were made?
Yes,
Does it label the banks to which the deposits were made?
it does.
And did you prepare that in anticipation of testifying today?
I did.
Do you believe it would aid the jury in understanding the deposit history for Tylee Ryan's social security? Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 84?
It really caught me off guard that detective started to get emotional because, you know, his testimony is all about these financial things and a little bit dry.
Is that the document that we have been speaking about?
Yes,
And is that a true and accurate representation of the demonstrative chart you created?
yes,
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes that State's Exhibit 84 be entered into evidence.
Any objection? All right, Exhibit 84 is admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
Detective, can you walk the jury through that chart?
sure. This chart depicts Tylee Ryan's social security benefits. It's the history of her timeline. So they're up in the upper left-hand corner. There's 3 different colors on this legend. So the first one, the purple colored, it's a social security benefit, was deposited into the joint JP Chase Morgan. So this was Tylee's first account, the 3918. And then we have on the second one, we have the benefit amount deposited into Lori's own personal account after we believe Tylee was killed. And then we have one that has some hash marks on it, and that shows that it was deposited for that month. But since Tylee was alive, we discount both those months, but they're just showing that deposits were made.
All right. And are there other dates on that chart?
Yeah, so on the first line, we have the date of 4/3/18. That's when Joe Ryan, Tylee's father, died. And then Tylee begins receiving benefits on the 14th of June. You see the large sum there. It's for her back pay, for lack of a better analysis. And then she starts receiving regular deposits of $1,800. And then when 2019 comes around, she gets a percentage increase. So that's why it's at $1,859. And then as we go towards the end of the middle, we see on the screen here on July 11th of 2019, this is the day that Charles Vallow was killed. And then the deposits keep going. And then on the 12th, Lori contacted the Social Security Administration to change Tylee's benefits. I think earlier I stated the 16th, but it was the 12th, so I stand corrected on that. The deposits for Tylee into the BBVA account now, since she's no longer receiving them in the JP Morgan. And you see here on the 8th, that's the last proof of life we have for Tylee. We have nothing in our investigation has shown that she is living after this date. And then after, for the month of October, Lori's receiving Tylee's benefits directly into her personal account. And then as you see here on the bottom line here, on June 9th, we find Tylee at the defendant Chad Daybell's property.
Detective, similar to that chart, did you make a chart for JJ Vallow's survivor benefits and Lori Vallow's mother, child, and care benefits?
I did.
Did you make that in preparation for testifying today?
Yes.
And did you rely on the banking documents that you reviewed in making that chart?
Yes.
Can you look at States Exhibit 85?
I mean, I think we have to
Is States
remember,
Exhibit 85 the document, the chart for JJ we've been speaking of?
Yes.
And did you create that in anticipation of testifying before the jury?
Yes.
Do you believe it would aid the jury in understanding these financial transactions?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that for demonstrative purposes only, that States Exhibit 85 be entered into evidence.
Very well. No objection. So Exhibit 85 is admitted.
And may I publish?
You may.
Detective, can you describe how you made that chart?
Yes, this is a chart depicting JJ's and Lori's, or JJ's Social Security benefits that are going into Lori's BBVA account. Again, the legend on the upper left shows the benefit amount deposited for JJ. Underneath that, you see the color for the amount deposited for Lori. And then the hash mark box shows, but it's not included in the total amount of deposit because we believe JJ was alive for that month. So as we go through the chart here, as stated in July of 2011, July 11th of 2019, Charles Val was killed in Arizona. Lori applies for benefits in August and starts receiving benefits in September. And this is their first deposit. And as stated earlier, this is not their regular deposit. It's for the back pay when she generated her paperwork to receive the benefits. And then very next box we see on 9/23, that's our last proof of life for JJ. And then you see the benefits being deposited in. They each were receiving $1,951 per month. So they received for September and then October. And then you look here on the last one, and then November 5th, this date is important to the investigation because that's the day that Lori Vallow became Mrs. Daybell and married Chad in Hawaii. JJ is still receiving benefits, as is Lori, all the way through to the end of the year and into January. And then the last box, we have the 9th when we found JJ on Mr. Daybell's property.
JJ's a
And
real,
Detective, all of those Social Security payments, was it your testimony, those went into Lori's sole BBVA account?
Correct. She had full control over it.
Detective, can you review pull out States Exhibit 65? And Your Honor, while he does that, States 65 the Exhibit 65 itself is a business record affidavit with subparts A through D. Where this has a business records affidavit, states understanding this comes in by way of stipulation.
Mr. Pryor, any objection to 65 and subparts A through D? All right, there is no objection then. Exhibit 65, the electronic business records affidavit is admitted. Exhibits 65A through D are also admitted.
Thank you. Detective, what is States Exhibit 65 in general?
The entire exhibit is dealing with Tally Ryan's joint account that her mother opened for both of them to share. for the BBVA, and they did that in August 19th of 2019.
All right. And can you look specifically at 65A? Are you familiar with that?
Yes,
What is that document?
this is a summary of accounts. It's the signature page for the application for the account of Tylee Ryan that ends in the last four numbers of 5794. And both her and Lori are signers on it.
And that's through BBVA.
Correct.
When was this account opened?
The 19th of August 2019.
Can you look at State's Exhibit 65B? What is that?
This is a transaction history monthly statement of activity on Tylee's account for the BBVA.
And in your investigation, was there anything significant about this document?
Yeah, two things. So one, that Tylee was not receiving any more deposits into this account from Social Security where she was in JP Chase Morgan. So any deposits that come into this account are now coming from her mother through transactions within the bank. This particular page we see was created on 8/19, and for the first couple of days, as they are, traveling from Arizona on their move to Idaho, you see again where on here we have the date of the transaction, but after these posted 9/3, it just shows that this card was used in person only 3 times. And that was during their move from Arizona to Idaho. They were at 3 different places. One was in Fillmore, Utah, which is in southern Utah. And it was used at a convenience store. There was one that was used at a Maverick in Perry, Utah. Again, I believe that's still southern Utah. And then there was one that was used in the Wickiup, Arizona. I'm not familiar with geographically where that city is located in Arizona, but it was used on that date. And from there, everything else that we've learned with this account was done online, with the exception of 2 more dates, one in September and one in October.
All right. Can you look at State's Exhibit 65C? And what is that document?
This is transaction history for Tylee's account, the 5794 BBVA from August 2019, I believe, through November of 2019. I'm sorry, it goes through January of 2020.
Okay. And earlier we spoke about on Tylee's JP Chase Morgan account about spending between brick and mortar stores and online payments. What's the general nature on this account?
This activity is completely opposite of what Tylee was using on her JP Chase account. All the activity on this account is done online, with the exception of 2 dates. And you'll see on, I believe, September 17th, there was a transaction where it was used in person at a Costa Vida Mexican restaurant. And then there was another in-person transaction on October 25th, I believe. that was, I'm sorry, October 7th. And we believe that Tylee did not make those purchases in person.
In the mic, please, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, I'm going to object to that characterization. It calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the last part of the response there, striking the belief Tylee did not make the purchases in person. There's no foundation for that, Mr. Wood.
All right, I'll lay some foundation. Thank you. Detective, through your investigation in this case, were you involved in the search for Tylee Ryan?
Yes,
And are you aware of, through that search, of a last known sighting of Tylee Ryan?
last known sighting of Tylee Ryan, I believe, was a photograph where she was in Yellowstone on the 8th of September, 2019.
And so these purchases that were made after that date, what was significant about those to you in this investigation?
Just complete opposite of anything that Tylee was doing up until this point. Everything is done online in this account. The monies are coming in from Lori's account to her personal account. She would send money, make deposits into Tylee's account, and then those monies would immediately be Venmo'd out to, we learned, Colby Ryan, who is Lori's son.
And you spoke about two brick and mortar purchases,
Yes,
and I believe you said they were both at Costa Vida.
they're both at Costa Vida.
And ask you to look at States Exhibit 65D.
Okay.
And what is States Exhibit 65D?
States, the exhibit is a copy of the receipt that I obtained for a purchase with Tylee's account on the 17th of September of 2019.
Right.
It was an in-person purchase.
And on the third page of States Exhibit 65D, what is that?
This is a Costa Vida receipt dated October 7th, 2019, that was used with Tylee's card associated with this account for an in-person purchase.
Hey, Evil Queen, welcome.
And so to clarify, Tylee in that BBVA account, she never received Social Security payments there.
No.
Detective, can you look at States Exhibit 66? Do you recognize States Exhibit 66?
This is affidavit of business records for Barclays Bank.
Okay. And Your Honor, for the record, this exhibit does come in with a business records affidavit. It has subparts A through D. And with that business record, I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
As to Exhibit 66, any objection?
And again, Judge, that was an agreement prior that this would be admitted by stipulation of the parties.
Okay, Exhibit 66 has been offered and is admitted, as well as the subparts 66A through D.
Thank you. Detective, do you recognize States Exhibit 66A?
This is a Barclay Bank application for credit card. And it is in the name of Lori Vallow.
All right, is anyone else's name on there?
No,
All right. Do you know when this was applied for?
So the application date was September 24th of 2015.
And can you look at application 524-71125?
This is the application for Barclays Bank credit card for Charles Vallow. And the application date is the same as the previous.
All right, thank you. And then application 5566-2600, what is that?
This is Barclays Bank application for a credit card in the name of Lori Vallow. The application date was April 19th of 2016.
So this was a joint credit card application, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Hi, Lollipop Guild.
Can you look at States Exhibit 66B? What is that?
This is a monthly statement of transactions activity for the Barclays credit card belonging to Lori and Charles Vallow.
In your investigation, was there anything significant about the information you found on this page?
Yes, two things stand out. On the second line down for June 12th, we see a credit card payment to Valley of the Sun Mortuary in Chandler, Arizona. And this is the day after, if you recall, Charles Vallow was killed on July 11th of 2019. And the second date is all down to the bottom of the page here. So on July 20th, we see an airline ticket purchase for Legion Air in the name of Chad Daybell. And the airfare was round trip from Provo, Utah. The PVU is the acronym for Provo. And the IWA is Phoenix Mesa. And then round trip back to Provo. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You see on this page here too that you have purchase activity for Charles Vallow, and there is no transaction activity in July. And then you see that this card used by Lori Vallow that was issued to her, it was responsible for these transactions.
All right. And so the transaction for the payment for airfare for Chad Daybell was what date?
On July 21st, it was the purchase date. The July 20th was the post date.
And to your knowledge and investigation, was Chad Daybell married to Tammy Daybell at the time
He was.
that was purchased? Yep. Can you look at States Exhibit 66C? And what is that document?
I have a Barclays MasterCard in the name of Alex Cox. And this is a monthly statement of transaction activity for this account.
And you had mentioned earlier that Alex had an account that he shared with his sister Lori. Is this that account?
It is.
How do you know that they shared it?
They each were assigned separate cards.
All right. Can you describe, or is there anything else of significance on this document to your investigation?
Yes, we have at the bottom of the page, we have airfare for Lori Vallow flying from Phoenix Mesa to Idaho Falls on a round trip, and that would be February 25th.
And is the Idaho Falls Airport the nearest airport to Chad Daybell's residence?
Yes.
Was there anything else of note on this page or this document?
No, on the next page.
Okay.
On this page, you're seeing purchases in the month of March on the Alexander Cox, Lori Vallow shared credit card account. You see purchase activity for Lori, and you see her card that ends in the number 5259. There are 3 purchases that she makes on this account that show that she bought airfare for Tylee Ryan and Tylee's friend Brianna Gill. And those purchases were made on March 13th, and they were round trip from Phoenix to LIH, which is, I believe it's pronounced Lahui, Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. And then directly under that, for March 14th, you see Lori using her card to pay for airfare for Chad Daybell, flying from Idaho Falls round trip to Phoenix Mesa and back to Idaho Falls.
And that was March 14th of,
2019.
and so Charles Vallow was still alive at that point, to your knowledge, correct?
Correct.
Did you find any indication that Charles Vallow had a card on this account?
He did not.
And then Detective, would you look at State's Exhibit 66D? What is that document?
This is the application for a Barclays credit card in the name of Alex Cox, dated 9/26 of 2016.
And was this associated with the account we were just speaking of?
Yes.
Is there anything of note on that document to your investigation?
Are you talking about just this particular page? Other
Just
than,
in that document, is it just the
it's just the account information
account information?
for Alex, yes.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 67? And you're,
Sorry.
oh, I was gonna say, Your Honor, this Exhibit 67 has one subpart, just 67A, and it is, Exhibit 67 is a business record affidavit, so I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
All right.
That's correct.
Very well. By stipulation of the parties, Exhibit 67 and Exhibit 67A are both admitted.
All right. Detective, are you familiar with State's Exhibit 67A?
I have some knowledge of it, and it's the account from First Hawaiian Bank for Lori Vallow.
And did you receive this through a warrant or subpoena?
I did.
Did you review this?
I was not the primary reviewer of this.
Did you provide this to another agency to review?
I did. I provided it to forensic accountant Michael Douglas of the FBI.
All right. Can you look at State's Exhibit 68? Do you have that?
Yes.
What is that?
This is a business record affidavit associated with Chrysler Capital Finance Company.
And Your Honor, this again, State's Exhibit 68 is a business records affidavit, has one subpart 68A. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 68 and 68A are both admitted.
Detective, are you familiar with State's Exhibit 68?
I am.
Or 68A?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a application for credit through Chrysler Financial for purchase. Charles Vallow made of a 2018 Jeep Wrangler that we associated with Tylee Ryan.
And are you familiar with the search for a Jeep in Rexburg, Idaho?
I am.
Is this that same Jeep?
It is.
Is there anything else in that document of note to your investigation?
Yes, that the payments would be made on automatic withdrawals through the account of Tylee Ryan's JP Chase account, the 3918 that she had her. This is the account that it had the stipends deposited into when she first opened that account.
Okay. Thank you. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 82? And Your Honor, again, 82 is an affidavit of a records custodian. Has one subpart 82A. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That is correct, Judge.
Okay, Exhibit 82 and Exhibit 82A are both admitted.
Detective, what is the document found in State's Exhibit 82A?
The document is a rental application in the name of Lori Vallow for 565 Pioneer Road, number 107, the Rock Creek Townhomes in Rexburg, Idaho.
And have you reviewed this document?
I have.
Was there anything of note to your investigation on that document?
Yes, it shows that Lori did move from Arizona to Rexburg. And it shows that she is listed both JJ and Tylee to be living with her. And on the second page, you see here that,
If you're going to point something out, if you
Yes.
can point it with a
sorry. So her monthly rent from her previous residence in Arizona, she stated the reason for leaving. Lori writes, she is bringing children to attend BYUI. My daughter graduated high school at 16 and wants to attend BYUI, but is too young to live alone, so I'm coming with her and relocating.
Okay.
And then below that, you see, as far as her income, she lists Social Security. So all of the Social Security benefits, Lori's claiming just as her sole income.
And was there an amount that she gave for that?
There was. So there's $5,740. And if you combine all three deposits, the one for Lori, the one for JJ and Tylee's, it arrives at this amount right here.
Thank you. Detective, we've been talking about Lori Vallow and Tylee Ryan's financial accounts. Did you review any other financial accounts as part of your investigation?
I did.
What other financial accounts did you review?
Reviewed the financial information for Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother.
Right. Earlier, you showed a document listing out Lori Vallow and Tylee Ryan's different accounts that you had prepared for demonstrative purposes. Did you prepare a similar account for Alex Cox's financial documents?
I did.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding which documents or which financial documents pertain to Alex Cox?
Yes,
And did you do that in preparation for your testimony?
I did.
Can you look at State's Exhibit 69? Is this the same demonstrative list that you've been speaking about?
Yes.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes only, I'd ask the states, or is this a true and accurate representation of the list you created?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes only, that States Exhibit 69 be entered into evidence.
There won't be an objection, Judge.
Okay, without objection, then Exhibit 69 is admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
Detective, can you describe for the jury what is on States Exhibit 69?
So this is a financial account attribution list I created for Alex Cox. As we were looking into the whereabouts of JJ and Tylee, we went through Alex's financial information, and this is the information that we narrowed down through reviews that are pertinent to the investigation. So you see here, the first one is the Desert Financial Credit Union. This was Alex's everyday account. He was receiving paychecks on a regular basis. He was very responsible in his account and his spending. He had a fairly decent, well, decent for me at least, I'm sorry, but for as far as his account balance. So he was not reckless in any way in this account. You see the joint credit card that we just spoke to with Lori, and these are the cards that were associated with that. Alex also had a Mercury MasterCard, and he had a personal account from Wells Fargo, and from that he had 2 cards on Capital One credit cards. And then towards the end, after they moved to Idaho, he ended up opening up a account at the Mountain America Credit Union in Rexburg.
Thank you. Detective, can you look at States Exhibit 70? And Your Honor, again, States Exhibit 70 is an affidavit of a custodian of records. States Exhibit 70 has 2 subparts, A and B. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Any objection to the admission of 70 and 70A and B?
No, Judge, comes in by way of stipulation of the parties.
All right, Exhibit 70 as well as 70A and B are all admitted.
Detective, can you look at States Exhibit 70A? And are you familiar with that document?
I am.
What is it?
It's a consumer loan application for a 2017 Ford F-150 pickup truck that in the name of Alex Cox.
And did you review these documents as part of your investigation?
I have knowledge of them, but I was not the primary reviewer of those.
Okay. Did you provide those to another agency?
Yes. There is a second account that I did review on the next page, and it's a checking account application, then an account ending 7175 for Alex Cox, and that's his main everyday account. And I reviewed those documents.
All right. Was there anything of note to you that in that?
Yes. So as I stated earlier, Alex was very responsible, and he was very busy on this account. It would appear to be his everyday account. And he was making payments to his credit cards out of this account as well.
All right. Did those payments ever stop?
The payments did stop. So from this account, we learned that Alex had quit his job when he moved to Idaho. He was working for Heritage Environmental in Arizona, and he was receiving 2 to 3 paychecks a month. And at the end of August and beginning of September, he had quit that job and moved to Idaho. Just before he quit his job, he received a loan in the amount of $21,000 in August. I believe it was August 8th. And from then on, he had no income, no regular income, as he was not employed that we could tell.
All right. Is there anything of significance in terms of purchase history in these documents?
Yes, Alex in begins to, in August, begins purchasing firearms and firearms related items with this account and the credit cards.
And you said in August, what year was that?
That's 2019.
Right. And is that purchase history different from the rest of this account?
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
The purchase history of firearms, is that something consistent through that account or just starting in August?
It just started in and around August.
You mentioned that he received a loan.
Yes.
Was there a reason listed for that?
Yes, on the loan application, it listed for medical reasons.
All right. And the amount of the loan was $21,000?
21,000 that he received, yes.
Throughout your investigation, did you find any significant medical expenditures in his financial documents between the time of that loan and the time he died in December?
No.
All right. Can you look at State's Exhibit 70B? And what is that?
70B is just a list of monthly statements dated from 2/21 of 2019. I believe through November of 2019.
And were those the documents you were relying on for your most recent testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 71? And Your Honor, State's Exhibit 71 comes in by way of custodian of records affidavit. So I believe it's stipulated to, and just has one subpart A.
Any objection to the admission of 71 and 71A?
No, Judge.
Very well. 71 and 71A are both admitted.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 71?
Hi, Stacy.
Yes, it's the custodian of records.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Can you look at State's Exhibit 71A?
Right. Yes, this is the loan application for through Lending Club for the $21,000 loan for
And-
Alice.
And was this the loan we were talking about for medical expenditures?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, may I have a brief sidebar?
Yes.
Yeah, that bailiff is definitely getting his steps in. I wonder if he's wearing his Fitbit. So, what I really hear them doing here is establishing the financial records of purchases leading up to when Tylee and JJ go missing. Solo says he has great legs. That's also the other thing. I would be really bummed out if I had to show up to one of these Zoom hearings because I'm not super confident in my body. And everybody there's that one Zoom view where you get like this terrible angle of everybody's body. I'd be like, oh man, I have to walk by this camera where you could see my big old belly. But yeah, he should get a chair with wheels. But yeah, there I think this is the first time I'm hearing about Alex Cox getting a loan of $21,000, citing that it was for medical issues. And they had talked about him having medical issues, and oh yeah, that's why he died of natural causes. But he wasn't, he was in his 40s. I don't remember his exact age, but he was in his 40s. There isn't like a big documentation of major medical issues. To me, that's all made up. It's part of the story. And they did the same thing for Tammy. Oh, my understanding is that the defense is going to try to bring in testimony from kids saying that Tammy had medical issues, and that it's not surprising. Yeah, I don't think so either, Tiggy girl. I mean, it's known that Alex.
All right, council, we just discussed some scheduling there. We are going to take a mid-morning break at this time. That will be a 30-minute break. We'll come back on and continue until noon, and we'll plan on taking our hour lunch at noon. And then as regular schedule, a mid-afternoon break after that, go till 3:30. Today will be our schedule moving forward. So at this time, we will take our mid-morning break.
All right, please.
Did he say a 30-minute break for mid-morning?
So just
And they already turned off the cameras. Okay, okie dokie. So, like I said, I think they're trying to, yeah. Why 30 minutes? That's weird. So I guess this court kind of takes the bank hours, banking hours. So basically, this morning's testimony has been establishing following the money. This is the following the money testimony. But is it interesting that really the detective who is slated with, following the money was just super duper. It was really hard for him to hold back his emotion just by stating the name JJ. And man, when other people get emotional, it gets me emotional. And especially when I know why, especially when I know why they're getting emotional. So I've been also looking around to see if there are updates in the Karen Reed trial. I just came across this interesting one. Let me see what it says here. Yeah. This headline says supporters of Massachusetts woman accused of murdering cop boyfriend descend on courthouse, claim she was framed. And this is from the New York Post. So the Karen Reed supporters are still out there. Oh wow. I'll pull that up too, Solo Sock. So things are still heating up. This is day 2 of the Karen Reed trial, and it's still jury selection. My understanding is that they seated 4 jury members yesterday, and they're continuing today. So let's see what this report says.
Calvin Jackson, are you in Karen having an affair? Right on for you.
You would see, like.
I'm joined today by WBZ I-Team reporter Christina Hager.
New this morning, a second day of jury selection is set to begin later this morning in the murder trial of Karen Reed. 4 jurors were seated on Tuesday. 16 are needed before the trial begins. Reed is accused of killing her boyfriend, former Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Prosecutors say that Reed struck O'Keefe with her SUV and left him to die. Reed's defense and a number of outside supporters say she is the victim of a massive cover-up. The trial at Norfolk Superior Court in Dedham is expected to last 6 to 8 weeks.
A murder trial begins today in Massachusetts for a woman accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend, but it's her defense that attracting national attention. Karen Reed is her name. She has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder for the 2022 death of John O'Keefe. Her lawyers claim someone else is responsible and that she's being framed as part of a cover-up involving multiple law enforcement agencies. Nikki Batiste is following this trial.
Reed! Oh my God, it's Karen Reed!
For months, supporters of 44-year-old Karen Reed have rallied outside the Dedham, Massachusetts courthouse. The public fascination with the case has exploded ahead of Reed's trial, where she faces a second-degree murder charge for the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. His body was found outside of another Boston police officer's home in Canton, where he was supposed to attend an after-party with other members of local and federal law enforcement agencies. Reed had dropped him off around midnight after a night of heavy drinking at local bars. But prosecutors say O'Keefe never made it inside. They claim the couple had been arguing and that Reed hit him with her SUV before she drove home, leaving him outside in a snowstorm. CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman.
The defense has one really bad fact, and that's the fact that allegedly pieces of the taillight of Karen Reed's car wind up in the clothing of John O'Keefe.
Reed's defense team says O'Keefe did go inside the party, where he was beaten and then dumped outside. They have not named who they believe killed him.
That was a fanciful story, but again, there's actually no actual evidence.
If John O'Keefe was not hit by a car, that means that Karen Reed did not kill him.
The defense says that she was framed, and that she was framed by police officers from Boston who were at a house where the body is found outside.
Reed, who says she woke up at home and panicked when she saw O'Keefe wasn't there, drove around looking for him early the next morning and found his body in the snow. The coroner says his cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head and hypothermia. The case has divided the Boston area and close-knit suburb of Canton.
What is it about this case that has made it so captivating?
Boston is covering this case at every moment. In the newspapers, on the radio, on television. It has mesmerized the public, and the public is taking sides.
The U.S. Attorney's Office is now investigating law enforcement's handling of the case, a step that experts describe to us as extraordinary, given that the state homicide case was still being prepared. The trial is expected to last about 6 weeks.
So why? Yeah. Why would she alleges that he was murdered inside that house? Why would whoever was in that house want to kill him?
Essentially, Reed's defense team argues that O'Keefe had bad blood with some other law enforcement officers and some of their family members who were inside the house that night. A big sticking point in this case is whether a judge would allow the defense to basically point the finger at someone else, which is called a third-party culprit defense. So it's got a lot of twists and turns.
So the judge decided that motion a couple days ago and apparently is allowing some of it, but not all of it, the third party defense. So for the defense to bring in a third party culprit allegation. So apparently they're going to be accusing, somebody else, but they've never come out and specifically accused, a specific person in the house. They've definitely attempted to in certain quarters, but never come out with specific proof. So that'll be interesting. I've been looking for, let's see if this helps us. Here's some information on the people who were arrested in the Kansas City.
Talia Cunningham is looking into claims of their affiliation with an anti-government group. Talia.
Well, Erica, these 4 suspects right here, they were all part of what's called God's Misfits. Authorities held a press conference.
So these are the 4 people who were arrested in the murder of the 2 women who went missing
today, describing the group as a religious anti-government group. And court documents say on the regular, the Twombly's, they're pictured right here, a married couple, they hosted and even attended these weekly meetings. So there's no word tonight on if this affiliation had any connection to the crimes, but the day before the women disappeared, the Twombly's apparently told their 16-year-old daughter they were, quote, going on a mission, and the teen reported that information to police. The speculated motive, a heated custody battle. Investigators say the killings were planned, and Tiffany Adams, pictured right here, that's the grandmother of Butler's 2 children, purchased burner cell phones and 5 stun guns before the crime happened. As far as the discovery of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly's bodies, court records show that Tad Cullum, pictured here, that's the grandmother's boyfriend, dug a hole in a pasture he leased out and then covered up with hay. The manner and cause of death is still pending tonight. However, a local judge who was friends with Cullum is now speaking out.
I'm still, I'll say it again, I'm blown away that this even happened. I just can't. Tad was a very good friend of mine. I'm not going to say was a very good friend of mine. He is a good friend of mine. But this just blew me away.
Yeah, small community blew everyone away. And you might be wondering tonight, where were Butler's children during this? Well, their father is in rehab, which is why the grandmother was taking care of them. But when the crimes were committed, authorities say that the grandmother left the children with a couple who also attended those God Misfit meetings. Authorities say the children are safe and were never hurt in any of these incidents. But these 4 suspects, they will be making their first court appearance tomorrow. And ironically, tomorrow, well, that is the same date when Butler and Adams were supposed to appear before a judge to discuss modifications to that custody agreement. And tonight, they're all sitting in a cell charged with murder and kidnapping. In studio, Talia Cunningham, Fox 31.
Yeah, story gets stranger by the day, Ty.
That is a crazy story. So it wasn't just a custody issue, it was another extreme religious issue. Oh God. And we're watching. This one is this is just from an hour ago. And this is talking about the plot. I'm going to watch this one and then the one about
4
the plot.
suspects accused of murdering Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly set to appear in court.
This is state agents have confirmed the 2 bodies found in the Oklahoma Panhandle are those missing moms. Now, these 4 people have been arrested and charged with murder and kidnapping. KOCO's Megan Mosley is at the Texas County Courthouse this morning with the latest details.
Hey, good morning, guys. We are less than 30 minutes away from those 4 suspects appearing in court in a case that the nation has been watching closely. Tiffany Adams, Tad Cullum, Cora Toombly, and Cole Toombly were all arrested this week in connection to the murders of 2 Kansas women. The 2, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly, were on the way to pick up Butler's children when they never showed up. The medical examiner's office confirmed Tuesday the women's bodies were found in rural Texas County. The 4 suspects were allegedly involved in an anti-government religious group known as God's Misfits and face a list of charges from first-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy, all in connection to the 2 women's disappearance. Court records reveal the murders may have been planned, as key witnesses told investigators. And again, that court appearance is set here at the Texas County Courthouse for 9:30. Of course, I will be inside the courtroom to bring you the very latest. Reporting in Guyman, Megan Mosley, KOCO.
There was another one I wanted to watch because It talked about the plot and the motivation.
Well, Veronica's family notified police when they found her car abandoned on the side of the road. From then, the investigation into the missing and murdered women began.
This case did not end the way we had hoped. It has certainly been a tragedy for everybody involved.
These 4 people have been arrested and charged in connection to the disappearance and murders of 27-year-old Veronica Butler and 39-year-old Jillian Kelly. Butler was in a, quote, problematic custody battle with Tiffany Adams for the custody of her 2 children, and the 2 were on the way to pick up Butler's children in Texas County, Oklahoma, when they went missing. According to court documents, the suspicious disappearance was reported on March 30th after Butler's family members noticed her abandoned car. This arrest affidavit reveals blood was found on the roadway. Butler's glasses were found near the car, as well as a broken hammer. A pistol magazine was found in Kelly's purse, but no pistol. Adams, who's the paternal grandmother of the 2 children in the custody battle, told OSBI she called Butler to confirm the pickup, and according to her, Butler told her something came up and she couldn't make it. Phone records confirmed the call. However, Butler was in Kansas at the time picking up Jillian. April 1st, investigators got a search warrant for Adams' phone, which showed web searches for taser pain level, gun shops, prepaid cell phones, and how to get someone out of their house. Adams was found buying 5 stun guns from a store in Guyman, along with 3 prepaid phones in February. Those same phones would later be tracked to the area Butler's car was found. April 3rd, OSBI interviewed a family member of Cora Toombley, one of the arrested suspects. This family member told police Cora said she and the other suspects were involved in the deaths of Butler and Kelly, and that Adams provided burner phones to use to communicate. The family member also said the day before the women were reported missing, Cora and Cole Toombley told them they wouldn't be home and that they'd be on a, quote, mission. The family member also told police this wasn't their first time they've attempted to kill Veronica Butler. And it's important to note the father of Veronica's children was in rehab at the time of the women's disappearance, and the OSBI does confirm they have found 2 bodies in Texas County, but have not yet connected them to these 2 women. Reporting in Oklahoma City, Megan Mosley, KOCO 5 News.
Wow. This world does get weirder and weirder and weirder. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So while we were watching that, I was also looking for I wanted to bring up the speech that Lori, and I had found it before, but somehow I lost the tab of Lori Vallow's speech at the end of her trial. I don't want this to start because, oh wait, is it? Because it was very, very, very interesting to hear her speak. And I'm on a video right now where it says, you know, hear her speak, but it doesn't look like it shows that. So I'm trying to get to it. Hold on one moment. I think I found it. Yes, this proved how incredibly delusional she is. And I actually think that what she says in court here is what Chad still believes. I think Chad still believes these things, or at least a derivation on these things, because they do have two different defenses, right? She didn't defend herself really at all, and he is defending himself. So there may be some differences, but in general, from a religious and, kind of radical cult perspective, they do believe these things. And it's shocking to know it. So I want to remind us all of that.
Closed sentence. If you choose, you may address the court. This is known as the right of allocution and mitigation.
John from the New Testament in the Bible. I would like to start by quoting John from the New Testament in the Bible. In John chapter 8, verse 7, Jesus says, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." Then in verse 15, Jesus says, "Ye judge after the flesh. I judge no man. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true."
So she takes this opportunity. She's been declared guilty. The jury has found her guilty. Victim impact statements read. The horrible autopsy photos shown, how everything, all the emotions, all the intensity, all of that. And then she comes preaching, right? And it shows you how completely out of this world she is, and her entire, anybody who's in that realm of hers is. And I believe Chad is in that realm as well.
Jesus knows me, and Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy.
And this is this sickness of it, of saying that in the world that I live in, everything I did is okay. So please come over to my understanding, where I exist and you don't.
Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen.
So she's saying all those things, all those things she just said. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen. Those are her accusations for how these people died. Yeah, she does believe in Jesus. She keeps talking about how Jesus knows her heart and she knows her. In fact, Harlot, she believes that she is a direct ascendant of Jesus, because Chad told her that.
I have a different perspective in life because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. They tried.
Oh, yes. And don't forget, all of these people have their own near-death experiences. So because they have their near-death experiences, they have a special relationship with Jesus and God, They can see things we don't, and they are special. So we should set them aside and allow them to have their special life and special relationship and special rules where they can decide who gets to die and who gets to live, and things happen around them that can't be explained, and we should just allow that to happen. And set aside a whole set of rule of laws for them. Rules of
Tried
law
to
for them.
stop my labor. They put me on the table and they put something in my IV, and I felt my spirit falling to the floor. I was standing near my pregnant body, watching the doctors try to revive me, which took them a few minutes. In that time, my sister Stacy was standing to my left. I turned to hug her and was surprised that her spirit was as tangible as a physical body, because I knew I was in spirit and she was in spirit. She said she needed to show me some things, and we went to heaven. I later returned to my body. Because of this experience, I have access to heaven and the spirit world. Since then, I have had.
See how she said that? Because of this experience, I have access to the spirit world. Yeah, that's true. So either you do this through near death or LSD, right, Johnny?
Had many communications from people now living in heaven, including my children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, my sisters, Stacy and Lolly, my aunts and my uncles, and my grandparents.
Makes you wonder if she also had a hand in their deaths as well, but that's a stretch.
I have had many communications with Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, and our heavenly parents. I have had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact
what I do a lot of times when I'm watching somebody say these things is watch the body language of the other people around, and it's kind of hard to not notice the way that, like, Rob Wood there at the end, the guy with no hair and the beard, and he, like, I think it's hard for him to not have just an exasperated expression on his face, like, my God, what are you saying, lady?
that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world.
And that's how you justify. That's how you justify what you did.
Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and
All right, Miss Vallow, before I
Sorry guys, I have to. That was my bad. I got to get to where she was. Sorry.
I've had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world. Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and extremely busy.
If I was in that courtroom, I would be shuddering. Exactly, Harlot. I might want to just run out of that courtroom. I mean, my God, the unmitigated gall. And you see, she's on the extreme end, right? She was able to use all of these justifications in a murderous rampage, right? But you also see people all over YouTube using justifications for terrible acts at a lesser degree, for just emotional abuse of all levels, right? You see that all the time.
Busy. I have always mourned the loss of my loved ones, and I have lost many in this mortal world. However, I know them more than most people. I know where they are now and what they're doing. I know how wonderful heaven is, and
She's the
I'm homesick
all-knowing.
for it every single day. I know we all lived in heaven before we were born on earth, and we were all adult spirits in the heavenly realm.
I'm sure she does, Johnny. I'm sure she probably has won a lot of followers in prison.
We chose to come to earth as mortals. Heaven is more wonderful than you can possibly imagine. I do not fear death, but I look forward to it. I did not want to return to my body when I was out of it. Even though my son Colby, who I adored more than anything, was only 6 years old at the time, and I was about to give birth to this new baby girl that I wanted so badly. I was a young mother, and you would think I wouldn't want to leave my children, but as I stood in heaven, I did not want to go back. I thought they would be fine without me because I was peaceful and I was happy and I was home. But then I was told by Jesus that I needed to go back and complete things that I had covenanted or promised to do before I was born. This caused me a lot of distress because I knew heaven was my real home, and I only wanted to be there. I was free from pain, emotional and physical. But then I was shown how I would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Thank you.
Kylie has visited me. She is happy and very busy. Kylie is free now from all the pains of her life.
That you caused.
Kylie suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Kylie in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain when the morphine wasn't even enough to take away the pain of her pancreatitis.
Some have postulated that maybe Lori had Munchausen by proxy. I don't think we'll ever really know.
I sat there while she cried and I held back her hair while she threw up. And I am the only person on this earth who knows how much Kylie suffered in her life.
Right,
She
Johnny?
had pain every single day. She never felt good. Her body did not work right. And I don't know if that was from complications from me.
See, so she believes she's freeing her child from this earthly realm, that she freed her from these shackles of this terrible body that she had.
Dying while she was being born
Look at
or
Rob
something
Wood.
else, but she had a very difficult life. She was sexually
For
abused
you.
by her own biological father
Never
since she
proven.
was 3 years old.
Never
And she
proven.
was forced by family court to go visit him for 10 years against her will. I fought for her.
Very good point, Johnny. If she believes she did it for Jesus, why can't she say it? So she clearly knows that she's subject to the rules of the land. Who did she make this agreement with to come back to her body? And if it's as glorious as she says in heaven and loved her children, she would have gone with them. Yeah, true.
Court, I protected her. I tried to protect her with my whole life.
Right.
I tried to protect her.
Right.
I worried about her every single day. Tylee had to get her GED because she couldn't go to school every day because she never felt good. She felt sick. Nobody knows this because Tylee, like myself, tries to put on a good front, tries to be a happy person, tries to have hope in life, tries to
The long-suffering Lori.
know that she's here for a purpose and that she has an eternal purpose to be on this earth. But I never stopped worrying about her. One of the times that Tylee came to me as a spirit after she died, she commanded me, and she said to me, "Stop worrying, Mom. We are fine." She knows how I worry and how I miss her. The first time JJ visited me after he passed away, he put his arm around me and he said to me, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom. I love you. And I know you loved me every minute of my life." JJ, Joshua Jackson, was an adult spirit. And he was very, very tall when he put his arm around me. He is busy. He is engaged. He has jobs that he does there. And he is happy where he is. His life was short, but JJ's life.
Court is back, so we will continue this later. I'm going to switch back to court, where there is a very dark pall over. Isn't that kind of ironic there? It is a totally natural lighting issue because there's windows behind Chad and Pryor, but it's appropriate, right? The darkness behind them. Yeah. Grow the fuck up, grow the fuck up, grow the fuck up. Yeah. That was it particularly at the end of that trial, the absolute tone deafness of that testimony from her was jarring. And and I remember vividly thinking, feeling the feelings of the other people in the room, because Tammy's family's there, the Woodcocks are there, Chad's family's there, Joe Ryan's family is there, JJ's parents are there, his biological parents. Yeah, exactly. Do you know how many times I was dragged under by waves in Southern California when I was a kid?
We don't have anything today on Zoom either. There's no Zoom hearing. But
I should be the freaking Pope by now.
Okay.
I also landed flat on my face diving into pools a few times. It's a rite of passage for sure. Whenever you live near the ocean, especially in the Pacific Ocean. And then my friend across the street had a pool, and she had a pool that had like a roof right above it, and we were dumb kids and we would jump into the pool from the roof. How dumb. And man, I dove into the pool from the roof. I landed on my face once. I bended my back once. I belly flopped. I had.
Your Honor, the jury is present and accounted for.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated.
Many of them, Daisy. And you know.
Okay, we're back on the record on KCR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. The state's continuing with its case in chief. Detective Consitis is on the stand and has previously been sworn and is under oath. Continuing with direct examination, the court would also note we had previously turned the blinds down for better resolution on the monitor, but had requests from the jurors to have the windows open. And so they're open, and hopefully we get good enough resolution on the monitor to go forward. We'll still dim lights when we're showing exhibits. And if it's clear enough, I'm fine to have the windows remain open.
That's funny.
So, Mr. Wood, if you'd like to continue with direct, you can do that at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So we can blame the
Detective,
bird
can you
for
look
the
at
light
State's Exhibit
issue.
72 and 72A? And Your Honor, I just represent, this is, the 72 is a business record affidavit and 72A is the one subpart. And I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
All right, exhibit 72 has been offered as well as 72A. Without objection, those exhibits are admitted.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 72 and 72A?
I do.
What are they?
72 is the affidavit of record for Credit Shop, which is the parent company for Mercury, for a credit card application for Alex Cox.
And did you serve a warrant or subpoena to obtain these records?
I did.
Did you review these records?
I have some knowledge of this account, but I was not the primary reviewer.
Did you provide these records to another law enforcement agency?
I did.
All right.
Michael Douglas, forensic accountant at the FBI.
All right, thank you. Can you look at State's Exhibit 73 and 73A? Again, Your Honor, State's Exhibit 73 has a business records affidavit. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That is correct, Judge.
Okay, so 73 and 73A are each admitted as well.
Detective, are you familiar with this document?
I am.
What are these documents?
This is 73 is a business records declaration for a Wells Fargo account in the name of Alex Cox for a Visa credit card.
And did you serve a warrant or subpoena to obtain these records?
I did.
Did you review them?
I have some knowledge of them, but I was not the primary reviewer of this account.
Did you provide these documents to Mike Douglas at the FBI as well?
I did.
Thank you. Can you look at State's Exhibit 74? And again, Your Honor, State's Exhibit 74 is a business records affidavit, and with one or two subparts, I believe it comes in by way of stipulation. Detective, are you familiar with State's Exhibit 74?
I am.
All right. Your Honor, may that be admitted.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 74 and 74A and B are admitted.
And are you familiar with these documents?
Yes.
What are they?
So declaration of records from Capital One for 2 applications of credit cards in the name of Alex Cox.
And did you review? Did you obtain these through warrant or subpoena?
I did.
Did you review these records?
I have knowledge of them, but I was not the primary reviewer of these.
And does that apply to 74A and B?
Yes.
You provided those to Mike Douglas?
Yes.
Thank you. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 75? And Your Honor, State's Exhibit 75 is a business records affidavit with one subpart. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Any objection to 75 and 75A being admitted?
No, Judge.
All right, 75A and 75 are each admitted.
Detective, are you familiar with these records?
I am.
Did you obtain those through warrant or subpoena?
I did.
Did Did you provide those documents to Mike Douglas of the FBI?
I did.
Detective, is it fair to say that you reviewed Alex Cox's financial information, specifically the Desert Financial?
Yes.
Did you prepare a demonstrative chart to show a timeline of its financial records and spending?
Yes.
Did you do that in anticipation of testimony today?
Yes.
Would you look at State's Exhibit 86? Is this the chart you've been preparing, that you spoke of preparing?
Yes.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding the timeline of some of Alex Cox's banking and events in this case?
Yes.
And is that document a true and accurate representation of what you created?
Yes.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 86 be entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Very well. State's Exhibit 86 is entered.
And may I publish?
You may.
Detective, can you walk the jury through this timeline and chart you've created?
Yes, this is the financial timeline for Alex Cox. Again, it's Lori Ballow's brother who moved to Idaho with Lori and Tylee JJ. So this is dated from February 7th, 2019 through December 12th. And December 12th is the day that Alex died. So that's where it stops. But you see in the dark blue part of the timeline, you have the financial credit union 7175. He's got a steady income, regular monthly deposits from his place of work, the Heritage Environment. Everything, I can reiterate, he was kind of responsible in the sense that he was paying his bills and paying on his credit cards. In August 9th, he applies for the $21,000 loan and receives it, and it's deposited into this account. So from August 10th through October 24th, you see here that Alex makes 46 transactions for gun-related purchases. Again, this covers the accounts and the credit card, the financial account, but he's paying on the credit cards through this account. So at the end of August, he quits his job and they move to Idaho with Lori and the kids, and he's got no job, no regular income. And then we see here on November 13th, he opens up the Mountain America Credit Union in Rexburg. And then a short time later, he dies on December 12th.
Thank you. Detective, as part of your investigation, did you review financial documents for Chad Daybell?
I have some knowledge, but I was not the primary reviewer for Mr. Daybell's counts.
All right, but did you obtain any documents for Mr. Daybell?
I did.
Are some of those documents the ones that you testified to earlier that you handed off to the FBI to look at?
Yes.
Okay. But you helped write subpoenas and warrants and obtained financial documents for Mr. Daybell?
I did.
All right. So far, you've provided 2 lists of financial account attribution lists, one for Lori and Tylee and one for Alex Cox. Did you prepare a similar list for the documents you received for Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did you prepare that in anticipation of testifying today?
Yes.
Can you look at State's Exhibit 76? Did you prepare that document to aid the jury in understanding which accounts exist that contain financial information that you looked at for Chad Daybell?
I did.
And is that a true and accurate representation of the list you created?
Yes.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding the documents that you were looking at?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask for demonstrative purposes that State's Exhibit, that State's Exhibit 76 be admitted.
No objection, Judge.
Very well. Exhibit 76 is admitted.
And may I publish?
You may.
So here's the financial account attribution list I created for Mr. Daybell. His main everyday account we learned was from the Mountain America Credit Union. It was a joint account with his wife, Tammy, and the 3007 and the 3301 are two separate accounts within the Mountain America system that they had. And the second account here was for Spring Creek Book Company, and that's the company that Mr. Daybell owns and with his publishing and selling of books. And there was two credit cards assigned to this account, one card ending in 3136 and one card that was issued to Tammy, and the last four numbers were 7171. After that, we have a First Hawaiian bank personal account that Mr. Daybell opened, and that account ends in 9185. There's a Citibank credit card that Mr. Daybell opened an account with. There's also a Visa card associated with the Wells Fargo account. And the last one on the list here was a Capital One account with two cards issued, one to Chad and one to his wife, Tammy.
All right. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 77? Your Honor, again, State's Exhibit 77 is a certificate of authenticity of this business records, and there are subparts A through I. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
77 and 77A.
A through I.
I have been offered. Any objection?
No, Judge.
Very well. Exhibits 77 as well as 77A through I are all admitted.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 77A?
Yes.
What is that document?
It is a monthly statement associated to account 3301 for, say, Spring Creek Book Company.
Okay, and did you review this document?
I have some knowledge of it, but I was not the primary reviewer.
Did you serve a warrant or subpoena to obtain this?
Yes.
Is this a document that you handed off to Mike Douglas as well?
Yes.
All right. Can you look at State 77B? And what is that?
This is a Mountain America Credit Union account 3007 for Chad Daybell.
And is it a joint account?
It's a joint account for Chad and his wife Tammy.
All right. And I'm sorry, in State's Exhibit 77A, who was that account for?
Oh, it was both for Chad and Tammy as well.
And was it involved with Spring Creek Book Company?
Yes.
Do you know what Spring Creek Book Company is?
It's the business Mr. Daybell owns for publishing and selling of books.
Judge, I'm going to object. I think that's a mischaracterization.
Response, Mr. Wood?
I think the officer testified to his knowledge. I don't see how that's a mischaracterization.
Why do you native objection, Judge?
All right, well, I'm just going to overrule the objection. You can go into that on cross though, Mr. Fryer.
Thanks. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 78? Your Honor, State's Exhibit 78 is again an affidavit of a custodian of records with one subpart 78A. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
All right, 78 and 78A are offered. Any objection?
No, Judge.
Very well, both are admitted, 78 as well as 78A.
And Detective, what is State's Exhibit 78A?
It is a account application in the name of Chad Daybell for First Hawaiian Bank.
And did you receive this document by warrant or subpoena?
Yes,
Did you provide this to the FBI?
I did.
Thank you. And can you look at State's Exhibit 79? And Your Honor, 79 is a custodian of records affidavit, one subpart. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
Very well. Then, as offered, Exhibits 79 and 79A are both admitted.
Detective, what is State's Exhibit 79 and 79A?
79 is an affidavit records for Citibank for a credit card in the name of Chad Daybell.
Did you receive this document by warrant or subpoena?
Yes,
Did you provide it to Mike Douglas of the FBI?
I did.
Can you look at State's Exhibit 80? Your Honor, again, I know this is a bit monotonous, but this is State's Exhibit 80 is the business record declaration or affidavit with one subpart. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Any objection?
Judge, it's in by stipulation.
Okay, well, they're only in once I admit them. So Exhibit 80 is admitted and 80A is also admitted. And I appreciate counsel in going through, making sure our record is clear.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 80 and 80A?
Yes.
What are those documents?
80 is a business declarations from Wells Fargo. 80A is a Visa card for Wells Fargo for Mr. Daybell.
All right. And did you receive those records by warrant or subpoena?
Yes,
Did you provide them to Mike Douglas of the FBI?
yes.
And Detective, do you have State's Exhibit? Can you look at State's Exhibit 81 and 81A? Again, 81 is a business records affidavit with one subpart. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That is correct, Judge.
Very well. Exhibit 81 and 81A are both admitted.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 81A?
Yes.
What is it?
81 is a business records affidavit for Capital One. And the subdocument 81A is the monthly statements for purchases on the Capital One credit card for Chad and Tammy Daybell.
Did you receive those by warrant or subpoena?
Yes,
Did you provide those to Mike Douglas of the FBI?
I did.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 88? And Your Honor, 88 is an affidavit of records custodian. It has one subpart. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
All right. And that was Exhibit 88, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge. And 88A or
And 88A.
All right, thank you.
Detective, are you familiar with State's Exhibit 88?
Yes.
What is it?
88 is an affidavit of records from Julie Black of Kauai Dreams Realty for an email that was sent to her.
Okay. And what is State's Exhibit 88A?
88A is a screenshot of an email that was sent from Mr. Daybell to Kauai Dreams Realty.
Detective, did you How did you receive this document?
Well, I came into this document in February of 2020. Trying to locate the kids. We monitor social media sites and came across this document. And so I reached out to Julie Black to see the validity of this email and whether or not it was true or not.
And go ahead. And were you able to verify with her that this was an accurate document?
Yes.
And then she sent it to you with that records of an affidavit?
Yes.
For affidavit custodian. What date was this email sent?
This date was sent, the email was sent on November 8th. You see right here, 2019. That was about 3 days after Chad and Lori were married in Hawaii.
All right. And who sent the email?
The email address sender is chad.daybell@gmail.com.
And who is the recipient of the email?
Julie Black.
And can you read the body of the email?
I can. It says, we are interested in seeing this property. Would the owners be interested in leasing this property to a clean couple with no pets or children? Please let us know. Thank you.
Detective, what was of note of this document or why was this document significant to your investigation?
Well, as of November 8th in this email, it's stating that Chad and Lori have no kids. And so we're out looking for the kids, and they Chad puts this in a body of an email saying that they don't have kids. We just found this to be odd.
And when did you receive this email? Do you recall?
It was in February of 2020.
In fact, can you look at State's Exhibit 88? I believe there's a date on the affidavit. And what was the date that the affidavit was submitted?
It was submitted on the 4th of March, 2020.
Okay. And so at this time in your investigation, had you been able to locate Kylie or JJ?
No.
And so was the significance of that to you that Chad Daybell, the husband of the children's mother, was stating they didn't have kids?
Correct.
Judge, that's argumentative.
It's a late objection, so it's overruled. It was answered.
Detective, do you have State's Exhibit 90?
Yes.
Your Honor, again, State's Exhibit 90 is an affidavit of business records. There are two parts, 90A and B. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Any objection to 90, 90A, and 90B?
No, Judge.
All right, all three of those exhibits, 90, 90A, 90B, are admitted.
Detective, can you look at 90A?
Okay.
What is that document?
This is a subscriber information for Cable One. It's one of the online or cable services that's offered in Rexburg. It is named for Lori Vallow, September 3rd of 2019.
And is there an address associated with that?
Yes, it shows 565 Pioneer Road, apartment number 175.
Right. And is there an email associated with that?
Yes, the email listed as lollytime@icloud.com.
Detective, why were these documents of interest to you in your investigation?
Well, as we learned on her rental application when she was moving from Arizona to Idaho, she filled out the lease for apartment number 107. So when the warrants that were served, we found her to be living in apartment 175. The other area of that we'd like to inquiry about was there's a IP address that's associated with this account as well.
And why was that of note to you?
Well, later in our investigation, we found that Lori was in possession of Tylee's cell phone, and Venmo purchases were being made from this cell phone through this IP address.
And so could you track those Venmo payments through that IP address?
Yes.
And when you look at State's Exhibit 90B, what is that document?
This is Cable One subscriber information in the name of Alex Cox for 565 Pioneer Road, apartment 107. And this was generated on September 11th of 2019.
And what was significant to that document in your investigation?
This was the apartment that Lori was originally assigned to be living out of. They had switched apartments.
Right. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 91? Again, Your Honor, 91 is an affidavit of a records custodian with one subpart 91A. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
Very well. Exhibit 91 and 91A are both admitted.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 91A?
I do.
What is it?
This is a letter from Windstream Services stating that we were looking for information of a Venmo that was sent from an IP address off of Tylee's phone. And so when researching the IP address, it came back to Windstream Communications. And so we reached out to them and said, do you have any information in regards to Tylee Ryan? And they said that they didn't. They just offer IP addresses or static IP addresses. And this was the IP address that we were inquiring about was issued to a residence in hotel in Kansas City, Missouri.
So what led you to look for these documents?
Again, we were looking back on Tylee's BBVA accounts. We know that she wasn't receiving her regular deposits, and the money that was being deposited into her account was from Lori's account that Tylee had no control over. So she was sending money, transferring it into Tylee's account, and then it would be Venmo'd off almost immediately. And so following up on those types of transactions, that's how we came to know this particular IP address.
All right. And so just to be clear, a Venmo from Tylee's account was sent through this IP address.
Correct.
Right. And do you know where this Windstream Services is located?
They're located in Missouri.
And did it give a date for that transaction?
Did October 10th of 2019.
Okay, so the Venmo went through that IP address on October 10th.
Correct.
2019 in Missouri.
Correct.
Okay. And can you look at State's Exhibit 92? Again, Your Honor, 92 is an affidavit of a records custodian with a subpart 92A. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
That is correct, Judge.
All right, 92 and 92A are both admitted.
Detective, what is State's Exhibit 92A?
92A is a folio bill from the residents in Kansas City Airport located in Kansas City, Missouri.
And what was significant about this document to you?
This was the location of the IP address that was given on Tylee's cell phone on that date.
Okay. And does this document identify any individual for renting a room?
Yes. The room was purchased by Melanie Boudreau, who is Lori Vallow's niece.
All right. And do you know if anyone else was with her?
We know that Lori traveled to Kansas City with Melanie on this date. They flew from Phoenix to Missouri on the 10th and returned to Phoenix on the 12th. And we can confirm that with the airline reservations.
All right. And what was significant about that trip to you in your investigation?
That Lori was in Missouri using Tylee's phone and Tylee wasn't there.
Okay. Were you able to verify through flight records where they flew from?
Dirty,
I did.
dirty, dirty.
Where did they fly from? Bailiff? Where did they fly from?
They flew from Phoenix to Missouri, according to the flight records.
And so on that folio, it only stated the two people.
The two people, yes.
So there was no Tylee Ryan on that folio?
No.
And no JJ Vallow?
No, and it shows that the room was paid for by Melanie.
Okay. Detective, we're going to shift gears a little bit. As part of your investigation, did you ever engage in any type of search for pharmaceutical records?
Yes.
What type of search did you do?
In cases such as missing persons, we'll reach out if we have an idea of where the person we were looking for is living or has lived, and we will reach out to the state as a resource to the state pharmaceutical board and request if any prescriptions were filled that may lead us to a location that or an area that they may be in.
And did you do that for, who did you do a search for?
I did a search for JJ. I did a search for Tylee. There was one we searched for Melanie Boudreau as well, and also Lori.
And how do you go about doing a search for pharmaceutical records?
We'll reach out to the pharmaceutical board in the state and submit a request and let them know the circumstances, and they will then submit the information to you.
All right. And does each state do that the same?
Same premise, but they're all a little bit different. But we reached out to the state of Arizona, the state of Montana, and state of Hawaii, and the state of Idaho.
Why Montana?
Well, early on, as this case was unfolding at the very beginning, we were receiving tips, and one of the tips called in. They thought maybe JJ and Tylee were being held in a compound in Montana somewhere, so we just called upon that to check on that. And also that Melanie Boudreau at the time was living directly next door in apartment 174. So that's why her name was run as well.
Detective, can you look at States Exhibit 94 and 94A? Your Honor, States Exhibit 94 is a records affidavit of records custodian. I may just have a very brief sidebar.
Yes.
Yeah. Sidebar. Stacy, was there any indication that Melanie was going to do the same thing? I know there was a big custody battle between her and Brandon, and it's very concerning that she was part of that group. It is very scary to think that she would have done the same thing. Were her kids on that chart? Man, how freaking scary. And I can totally see why Brandon was scared. I mean, clearly, they tried to kill him. And how crazy, that her current husband actually went in wired by the FBI and then changed his mind.
All right, I apologize, Detective. Can you look at States Exhibit 94 and 94A? And I can't remember if this was admitted or not.
Not yet.
Okay. Your Honor, again, 94 is an affidavit of a records custodian. 94 is the subpart. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
Very well. 94 and 94A are both admitted.
Detective, what was States Exhibit 94A?
These are prescription monitoring program checks for the state of Hawaii through the Hawaii Narcotics Enforcement Division.
And did you find any records of prescriptions for J.J. Vallow in Hawaii?
I believe we did, but not in the time frame that we were requesting.
Okay. And did you find any prescriptions for Tylee Ryan?
No, I don't believe so.
You mentioned checking in Montana.
Yes.
And can you look at States Exhibit 95 and 95A? Your Honor, again, I believe that this document comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 95 and 95A both admitted.
And Detective, if you'll look at 95A, when you submitted names to these states, did you just do one name or multiple names?
We did multiple names. We knew that when we were looking through the airline records, JJ would fly under the name of Ryan, or he'd fly under the name Vallow. So we would use both last names when we were searching. So we were researching for this.
So what was the name you searched for on this page?
JJ Ryan.
And here?
Joshua Jackson Vallow.
Here?
Joshua Jackson Ryan.
Here?
Melanie Boudreau.
On this page?
Melanie Pulowski. This would be Melanie Boudreau's current last name. She had remarried in November of 2019.
And here?
And the last here is Tyler Ryan.
Did you ever find records of Tyler Ryan traveling under a different name?
Only once, and that was on a trip to Hawaii in early 2019. She flew under Tylee Vallow one way and returned Tylee Ryan and a different on the return leg.
That's weird, switching up the names on the flights.
Detective, did you perform that search in Idaho?
I did not. Another detective did, but the search was performed.
And are you aware if any results came in from that search?
There were no results.
All right. And any results from Arizona?
No results from Arizona, although they live down there. I was educated that Arizona only keeps track of narcotic analgesics or painkillers, opiate based drugs. That's all they keep track of. They don't do anything for any other types of medications.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 96? In Your Honor, 96 is an affidavit of a records custodian, and it has one subpart A.
Any objection to 96 and 96A being admitted?
No, Judge, thank you.
Very well, both are admitted.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 96A? That is. Do you recognize that document?
I do.
Did you obtain that document?
Okay, you know what?
I did.
You have now.
And what is it?
My memory.
This is an email exchange that Lori Vallow sent to Michael Edson. It's a little blurry on my screen here. If that's a way I don't have a copy in my possession.
I do remember that now, Stacy.
Okay, there you go.
Is that better?
Yes. This is an email sent from Lori Vallow to Mike Edson. We learned that it was a tax accountant that did Lori and Charles' taxes. And she sent an email to him asking if you'd like me to read the body, I could.
So it looks to me, Detective, like there's two emails. Can you tell which email was sent first?
I want to clarify exhibits here, Mr. Wood. Which exhibit is this being published right now?
That would be 96A.
All right. My 96A courtesy copy is the subpoena, but not the email.
Wait, can I approach?
You may.
Yeah.
I'll just have the bailiff provide you a copy of my courtesy copy.
That really makes me wonder if she has some sort of immunity.
And if I don't, it's
you're correct. Oh, well, all right, strike. You're what I have is consistent with what you have.
okay. You can go ahead and publish it, Mr. Wood. It's been admitted, and it's fine if my courtesy copy is not containing that as well.
And Your Honor, we'll correct that after court.
Thank you.
Detective, can you? All right, who's that email from again?
Michael Edson.
And are you aware of who Michael Edson is?
Yes, he was a tax accountant for Lori and Charles Vallow.
All right. And can you read the body of that email?
So the first email was sent by Lori on September 9th. It says, "Hi, Mike. This is Lori Vallow. I'm not sure if you heard, but Charles passed away in July. It's been a pretty stressful couple of months. I saw online our tax return got sent out, but it went to an old address. I moved with the kids and forwarded the mail, but I'm not sure that they will forward the tax return check. Is there some way to contact them to cancel that check and do a direct deposit? Or how would that work? Let me know when you can. Thanks, Lori."
Did he respond?
He did.
How did he respond?
He responded by email. Lori sent her email at 5:03 p.m. and he responds the same date at 6:11 p.m. Says, "Lori, I'm sorry to hear about Charles. I thought he was a great guy. If there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask. In the interim, here is the link to the IRS to fill out a change of address form so they can send you the check up to the new address. Prayers with you, Mike.
Detective, why was this email exchange significant to your investigation?
Yeah, she was
Well,
definitely arrested.
The email itself is rather benign. It's just appears to be a classic back and forth of exchanging information. But the date on the email is what was important to us, being September 9th. We recall our last known sighting of proof of life of Tylee was September 8th and September 9th. So we believe the investigation has found that Tylee was no longer living at the time of this email.
Okay. And was it significant to you that was just one day after her last known sighting?
Yes.
Okay. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 98? And Your Honor, this is 98 is a certificate of authenticity with one subpart 98A. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Very well. 98 and 98A are both admitted.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 98A? And can you describe what it is?
98A is airline information that we received via search warrant for 2 American airlines. We requested several names in the warrant to see if we could find out whether or not Tylee or JJ were on a plane somewhere during our search for them.
And these are the American airline records.
Correct.
And did you find any history of Tylee Ryan or JJ Vallow or Lori Vallow on these documents?
There were several flights for Lori during the period of time we requested from January 1st of 2019 through 2020. And there was only 2 flights that were listed for Tylee, and one was in February and one was in March, and they were both round trips to Hawaii. But there were no flights for JJ.
So no, I'm sorry, did you say no flights for JJ?
No flights for JJ on American Airlines.
And what was the time frame in which you asked for these records?
January 1st of 2019 through the end of the year.
And do you recall why that was?
Well, we knew that they had moved up to Idaho in September, but we wanted to see if there was any regular places that they went to or visited that we may reach out to another agency or something to try to find and locate JJ and Tylee.
All right. And so to clarify, you stated you found 2 flights for Tylee Ryan to Hawaii.
Yes.
And multiple flights for Lori Vallow.
Correct. And also Chad Daybell.
Oh, okay. And what of those flights of Lori Vallow are of interest to your investigation?
Well, the biggest one was in and around the time of that Tammy Daybell was killed.
Grounds. Sustain. I'll strike just the last part of the response saying Tammy was killed.
All right. Are you aware of what day Tammy Daybell died?
Yes, it was the 19th of October, 2019.
All right. And so one of these flights of Lori Vallow coincided with that death. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And there was another flight as well that was in and around that time that was pertinent to us.
And what flight was that?
That was the flight in early November where Chad and Lori flew to Hawaii to get married. They were married on November 5th, and they flew out on the 3rd of November.
And that was on these American Airlines documents.
Correct.
Okay. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 100? Your Honor, State's Exhibit 100 is a business records affidavit with one subpart A. I believe it comes in by way of stipulation.
Any objection to the admission of 100 or 100A? All right, both are admitted.
Detective, State's Exhibit 100, what is it?
It is business records affidavit for Southwest Airlines.
And what is 100A?
This are airline information reservations for Southwest Air.
And did you find anything in these records that were pertinent to your investigation?
We found that Lori and Charles traveled on this airline through 2019, and we learned that JJ had flown 6 times, but that was all prior to them moving to Idaho.
Okay. And do you know what those flights were?
They were flights from Phoenix to Houston, where Charles Vowell lived at the time, and JJ would fly back and forth between Phoenix and Houston to visit.
Okay. And did you find any other records on Southwest Airlines that were pertinent to your investigation?
Just give me a moment. I'm not seeing anything for Southwest Air.
Primarily those flights for JJ Vallow.
Correct.
Did you find any flights for Tylee Ryan on Southwest?
Don't believe we did.
Detective, do you have State's Exhibit 99? And again, Your Honor, State's Exhibit 99 is a business records declaration with one subpart A.
I do not have that.
Your Honor, may the witness be handed a copy.
All right, I don't believe the court has a courtesy copy of that one either.
Can I ask counsel? Okay.
You can still.
I guess, can you show it to counsel in the court and then?
I'll just do some light reading, Judge.
Very well.
I love how Pryor is always trying to get brownie points. And I think it's appropriate that Chad has been relegated to a shadowy figure in the courtroom via Zoom. You are a shadowy figure, Chad Daybell. You know, and this is something I'm just noticing. I'm not criticizing, I'm just noticing. I'm noticing that the detective doesn't get quite as emotional when he mentions Tylee. What is the reason? A dark, yes. Not just a shadowy figure, a dark figure. So what is the reason?
Judge, can counsel and I approach just briefly?
Yes.
Like, is it, and again, I'm not criticizing, I'm just analyzing. Is it because JJ's younger and he was special needs? Did he develop a special relationship with JJ's family? And are you saying the detective flew in on his own? Or who flew in on their own, Stacy? These are just things I like to ask myself, again, without criticizing. You know, what is the emotional? Is it that whenever he thinks of JJ, he gets a flashback on the discovery pictures of JJ, and that is more alarming to him than of Tylee? You know, could be any number of reasons. To me, like, I do see JJ as a slightly more sympathetic figure because of his age and his special needs status. And, you know, he definitely is the most innocent in this whole picture. But at the same time, Tylee doesn't have as many voices, and not a lot of people have spoken up for Tammy because Tammy is connected to Chad, and Chad's people have been sticking by him, right? With the exception of some of Tammy's family. Like Tammy's sister or sisters have come out. Welcome back, Sparkles. I was just contemplating, and again, not criticizing, but contemplating why the detective on the stand seems to get emotional when he talks about JJ, but not emotional when he talks about Tylee. And I've noticed that there seems to be more sympathy elicited about JJ overall by people than with Tylee or with Tammy. And I believe that, you know, all of them deserve equal amounts of sympathy and attention. And I feel sad. I feel kind of sad about that. I mean, again, I'm not disregarding the attention that JJ gets at all whatsoever. They all deserve, you know, they all deserve the attention they get. It's just something, these are just the types of things I analyze in my head. Yeah, and that's another, that is a sad thing when they were talking about JJ flying from Houston to Phoenix and back at such a young age. You know, he died when he was 7, but leading up to that, you know, he was only 4, 5, 6, 7. And Lori and Charles were going through issues for like the last year of JJ's life. And they lived in Hawaii for a period of time. All that traveling. I mean, he may have liked it, but I know that kids on the spectrum really like structure and routine. And it seems like that must have been really disruptive to him. I agree, Patricia. You know, I think a lot of us want to believe that Tylee was pushing back on Lori's beliefs. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that she was pushing back on Lori's beliefs. But there's also evidence that shows that Tylee was supporting her mom, you know, and probably just out of.
And I'm sorry, what were those dates?
You know, dependency.
Dates were for April 26th through the 29th of 2019.
I mean, of course, she loved and supported her mom.
And Detective, do you have State's Exhibit 305A and 305? And Your Honor, 305 is a certification of records. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation with one part, 305A.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, both 305 and 305A are admitted.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 305A?
Yes, this is airline reservation information from United Airlines.
And who is it for, and what does this document tell you?
This document tells me that the passenger on the reservation is for Chad Daybell.
And does this coincide with the last document you looked at in time?
Yes.
And does it say who purchased the flight?
This flight was purchased by Lori Vallow through her BBVA account.
But the person flying was Mr. Daybell.
Correct.
Detective, we've talked a lot about finances and travel. Looking at, is it fair to say you've reviewed several travel records pertaining to individuals involved in this case?
Yes.
And did you have to look at a large amount of documents to do so?
Yes.
Detective, in aid of the jury understanding the travel dates that are important to your investigation, did you prepare a timeline that shows the travel of the different parties?
Yes.
And what records did you use to create that timeline?
We used airline records from Allegiant, Delta, American, United.
And did you prepare that document in aid of your testimony today?
Yes.
Do you believe it would aid the jury in understanding the dates?
Yes.
And the places traveled to?
Yes.
Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 303? Detective, is this that document that you prepared in aid of the jury?
Yes.
Is it a true and accurate representation of what you prepared?
Yes.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, the state would move to admit Exhibit 303 into the record.
For demonstrative purposes, there's no objection, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 303 is admitted.
Detective, I'm going to turn your attention to the first page of 303. And can you walk the jury through this timeline?
Sure. This is a travel timeline for Chad and Lori Daybell. This first box on top of the timeline right before January shows that Chad and Lori met on the 26th of October in 2018. So this starts in January of 2019. So in January on the 6th to the 10th, Chad Daybell flies round trip from Idaho Falls to Phoenix, and the flight was booked in December of 2018 by Mr. Daybell using the Chad Daybell Gmail address, the same one he used for the Kauai Dreams Realty. As we move to March, we see that Lori Vallow booked a round trip flight from Phoenix Mesa to Idaho Falls, but she canceled this flight on the 26th for unknown reasons. But she ended up booking a flight and flew to Hawaii for this time frame. In the middle to late March, on the 19th to the 21st, Chad Daybell flew round trip from Idaho Falls to Phoenix Mesa, and the flight was booked on the 13th of March 2019 by Lori Vallow, and this is her Lolly Time Forever at iCloud email associated with that account. In April, Lori flies one way from Phoenix Mesa to Idaho Falls. The flight was booked on the 29th, so it was fairly quick. And then she flies one way back to, on the next one up here, she flies back from Idaho Falls to Phoenix. And that was booked on the 3rd of April. Again, and she booked her flight. On April 26th, this is the one we just talked about. Chad flew round trip from Idaho Falls to Houston, Texas, with a stop in Denver. It was booked by Lori Vallow and paid for by her BBVA bank account. Mr. Daybell did use his Spring Creek credit card to pay for an extra baggage for the flight. As we move over into May, we see Lori flew one way from Phoenix Mesa to Provo, Utah, and the flight was booked by Lori. And then up here we have the date of July 11th, 2019. That's the day that Charles Vallow died.
Can you walk the jury through the second page of that timeline?
Okay.
Try and zoom in a little bit.
One thing I want you to take notice of, if you could please, is that after Charles Vallow dies, Lori flies under the name of Lori Ryan the rest of the year. I think she booked a flight a day or so after Charles died, but still used the name Vallow, but everything else is Lori Ryan. So in August, you see up here the timeline, they're moving to Idaho. And in late August, Lori flies up a round trip from Phoenix Mesa to Idaho Falls, and she books her flight. And Melanie Boudreau, and that's Lori's niece, she was also on this trip. We believe that this is the signing of the rental lease just prior to them moving up. You see here on the timeline as we go on September 8th, that's the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan. We move over to the 22nd, that's our last known sighting of JJ. So in October 8th through the 13th, Lori Ryan flies a round trip from Idaho Falls to Phoenix Mesa. And this is the trip where she took to Missouri, which we had the Venmo used from the Missouri hotel. What's significant about this date is this is the day before Tammy Daybell had an incident where she was shot at and reported to police.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point at the characterization.
I'll sustain it as to that final statement and strike that part of the witness response. Mr. Wood, if you'd ask another question, I believe we're just getting into a total narrative at this point as well.
I understand you, Your Honor. After October 9th, what was the next event that took place?
Lori flies round trip from Las Vegas to Kauai. The date of the 17th of October is just before Tammy Daybell was found dead on the 19th. She was scheduled to return on the 21st on this flight. As you move over to the 24th of October, she flies one way from Phoenix to Idaho Falls after flying back from Hawaii. Now down here we have on the 23rd, just to give you a sense of where on the timeline things falls, that Tammy Daybell had her funeral service in Rexburg on the 23rd. As we move to early November, Chad and Lori fly round trip from Salt Lake City to Kauai. Chad flies from Salt Lake City. Lori, we believe, drove a vehicle down to Arizona and then met up with Chad in Southern California. There was a family trip that Chad took with his kids to California during this time. But what was significant to us is that Chad booked this flight just 5 days after the funeral service for Tammy Daybell. Continuing.
Well, Detective, I actually want to ask you a question.
Mr. Wood, I'd like to take a look at the time as well. I don't know how much longer you've got on the timeline, but.
You got one more page, Your Honor?
Okay, let's do that, and then it'll take long.
Okay. Detective, this last box, you'll see my pen pointing at, that's marked 11/3/2019. Does that coincide at all with what your investigation shows about the marriage of Chad Daybell to Lori Vallow?
Yes, they departed for Hawaii and were married in Hawaii on the 5th of November.
Okay. And then one last page. Detective, what's marked in the first two boxes?
So we have here Lori and Chad flew one way from Hawaii to Phoenix. And below that, they arrived in Idaho Falls on Allegiant Airlines. On the 28th, Chad flew one way from Salt Lake. And again, I believe I may have mixed up on the last page, but Lori was scheduled to be on this flight, but we believe she drove her car to Arizona. His box on the reservation was marked flown and hers was left empty, so it was designated to open. So, and this was also a trip that was a family trip that Chad paid for his kids and their spouses to fly to California to have over the Thanksgiving holiday. There was no record of Tylee or JJ on this trip at all.
Now, Detective, you had mentioned a trip earlier. Is it possible that this was the trip you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last box.
The last box is Chad and Lori flew one way from LAX to Hawaii, where they took up residence.
Okay.
Then the last.
Yes, there's one more box.
Box on the top of the timeline is June 9th, and that's when we found JJ and Tylee.
All right. Your Honor, I believe now would be time to break.
Okay, we will go ahead and take the lunch recess at this time. We'll plan on that being right around an hour. So just shortly after 1 o'clock, we'll try to get started again and go through the afternoon with another break then.
Okay. All rise, please.
Hey, Destination, you came in just as they ended the morning session. Well, that was a super duper duper dry session. But what they were doing was they were following the money. And toward the end there, as Stacy says, what you basically hear as they're following the money, Alex buys 47 gun-related items in August. He makes 2 alleged assassination attempts in October. The kids are killed in September. Tammy dies in October and he dies in December. Right? And then Lori and Chad, as we saw yesterday, do their storage stuff, and they get married, and they plan a trip to an amusement park, and they meet up with Chad's family, and they at Knott's Berry Farm in Southern California, and have a good old time. And I'm sure by that time, these people don't follow the conventional ideas of human decency and logic and wisdom and, family values. They just follow what Chad the prophet says. So just do what he says. So it's okay that I've already met and am planning to marry this completely new woman just days after Tammy's dead. Oh, I love Patricia's limericks. There once was a fat man named Chad whose view... I'm okay with being a little bit mean to murderers. And I'm okay with calling Chad a murderer, even though I'm sorry. I am okay. I am okay with this. Maybe that's bad. Whose view of himself was quite mad. He thought himself God, an exalted fat bod. Oh my God. But he was clearly just evil and bad. You're so funny, Patricia. You're so funny. I know I'm a bit of a stickler on the body shaming, but I'll let some of it loose for the accused when I'm feeling a certain type of way about the accused, and I feel a certain type of way about this accused. I certainly do. So I'll let it slide. You're so funny, Patricia, with your limericks. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take the afternoon break with the court because I'm a little tired today, but I will be back with the afternoon session. So I hope to see you all back with me at that time. And we will continue, I believe. I don't know. We'll see who the witness is in the afternoon. But at this time, they are following the money. They're following a timeline. A limerick is a word caricature of a person. I don't want a limerick. I'd be worried to see a limerick about me. But they're funny. I always appreciate them, Patricia. It's funny. Yeah, it's okay to diss Chad. It's okay. All right. I will see you all in around an hour, okay? Love ya. Please remember to hit the thumbs up and be good. Talk to you later. Oops.